Hello again, everybody. So it's me again, and we're playing more of The Witness, and I finally figured out how to solve these puzzles. So basically, the trick to them is you have to stack the items together and imagine a space that holds all of them as if they were collectively there. So a lot of this is just sort of braining it out and just sort of imagining this space where, okay, I can imagine all of these blocks fitting in there, and then you sort of have to divvy it up and then say, okay, that's how they're going to fit in there. And a lot of these puzzles are actually designed to subvert your expectation on how they should be arranged. Like here, I was sure that they would not crisscross, but after doing a lot of thinking, I mean a lot of thinking on this one, it finally occurred to me that, oh, they're actually supposed to just make a square because they are crossing through each other to sort of complete those points. But see, here you can see my brain as I'm trying to like figure out how to make the two crisscrosses like line up next to each other within a 3x3 space, and I'm trying like every possible combination, and it's really funny how you can get stuck on the simplest thing, and then finally to get past it, it's like, oh, sheesh, that's all I had to do was just stare at it for a bit and then make the connection. And then at that point, it becomes like super simple because it's like, okay, yeah, this is straight away, and then that's straight. And these, they don't care about the rotation at all. So if it's shaped like that, you just have to make the shape work around it. And here I got stuck because I wasn't sure where to actually begin the shape at. Because it needed to be somewhere where I could rejoin the wall, and ultimately that ended up only being one possible space because of the way that the map was arranged. Here, I had to figure out how to rotate this thing, and this took me a bit because it's like you have to draw what you want to connect. So in this case, I want to connect purple with blue. So in order to do that, I had to make a connection that fits all of those spaces together, and then it spins around nicely and lets you through. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, that's convenient. So I got off on purple real quick to just check out the place, and it's very pretty over there. And it's also very pretty over in blue. I think I like the swamp a lot, actually. It's quite lovely. And then once again, I got stuck trying to just sort of puzzle out how to get these things to connect. But after doing a little bit of thinking, it's like, okay, that makes sense. And then it's sort of like playing Tetris. I played so much Tetris that this sort of just comes together, even though the rotations are all off, because I'm like imagining these as Tetris blocks and like how they intersect and connect with each other. So a lot of these did just sort of come naturally after doing some thinking. And after looking at the crisscrossing blocks too, I'm like, okay, you're not going to fool me with that again. Here, it's like it kind of reminds me of a kelp farm. It's like where you grow like kelp or maybe even cranberries or something. But these are interesting puzzles because they actually are about subtraction. The blue squares subtract from the yellow, and funnily enough, I've only seen blue squares show up in one other place, which is on a really difficult puzzle door that I haven't actually solved yet, but I think if I went back to it now, I could probably figure it out. And that's the thing, like Jonathan said. Oh, here's an audio diary.
A poet once said, "The whole universe is in a glass of wine." We will probably never know in what sense he meant that, for poets do not write to be understood. But it is true that if we look at a glass of wine closely enough, we see the entire universe. There are the things of physics, the twisting liquid which evaporates depending on the wind and weather, the reflections in the glass, and our imagination adds the atoms. The glass is a distillation of the Earth's rocks, and in its composition we see the secrets of the universe's age and the evolution of stars. What strange array of chemicals are in the wine? How did they come to be? There are the ferments, the enzymes, the substrates, and the products. There in wine is found the great generalization. All life is fermentation. Nobody can discover the chemistry of wine without discovering, as did Louis Pasteur, the cause of much disease. How vivid is the claret, pressing its existence into the consciousness that watches it. If our small minds, for some convenience, divide this glass of wine, this universe, into parts, physics, biology, geology, astronomy, psychology, and so on, remember that nature does not know it. So let us put it all back together, not forgetting ultimately what it is for. Let it give us one more final pleasure. Drink it and forget it all. Richard Feynman, 1963.
So, once again, the theme continues that really this is all part of a much bigger plan, a bigger puzzle to sort of discuss, I guess, in a way, what it means to be alive. And when you look at this game, it's sort of a reflection of real life. I also love this little boat mechanic here. You just sort of draw a boat, and then it summons this boat out of the water, and you can take it anywhere on the island. I'll actually do a boat tour later on in another video so you can see just how large the island is. The map doesn't really do it justice because it's minimalizing everything to a way that seems humanly understandable. But really it's more divvied up than that, and there's a lot of little secrets. I especially like little scenes like this where you can sort of like connect things together based on perspective. It's very fun. I kind of like that a lot. And now this puzzle I immediately got because it's like, okay, you just stack them. But the problem I have is I did it, and then I was waiting, and I was waiting, and waiting, and waiting. I'm like, what's going to happen next? And you actually just have to sit here and be patient, because that little platform will eventually slide, as you can see. The footage is actually sped up here, so you're seeing it move, but in actuality, when you're standing here waiting, you don't actually notice it unless you're really focusing on it. It's like watching the moon come down. You can actually see clouds moving rapidly behind. So anyway, so now we're going to head up the mountain here. And on the mountain, there are a bunch of little secret puzzles and rooms and hidden areas. But the thing that caught my eye when I first started coming up here was the atrium. Because look at these flowers. They're so beautiful and vibrant and bright. And apparently the growing mechanic for them was to bathe them in a certain color of light. And then they would only absorb that light and then chemicals of that color, and that's how they became that vibrant, which I guess would work. I don't actually know if that would work in growing plants. If there are any botanists in the audience that know a thing about flora, by all means, please speak up, because I'd like to know if that actually would work, because that seems... why would that seem plausible? Why would a color of light transform a color of a plant? Now that I think about it more and more, that actually doesn't make any sense at all. But it seems like a cool idea, so that's where we are. And plants are weird, and maybe I'm completely wrong, and they actually can be transformed like that. I don't know. So, yeah, so basically these are separation puzzles. It starts with a black and white separator to even get into the room, and then at this point it's like, okay, well, we already know how to do that, so now let's deal with three things that need to be separated. I also love the material that these are made out of, like the little clacking and noises they make and how everything seems sort of like stapled together. I don't know, it just feels very nice. It's very, very material. And then, I had to do these, and, as always, they get progressively harder, but not so much that your brain starts hurting until you get to one that, like, just subverts everything you know already. And it's sad, because looking back, having passed this section, a lot of these just seem infinitely easier. Like, wow, I could have done that a lot sooner if I just thought about it for a second. One thing that these puzzles, I think, try to reinforce is that you want to hug the walls. And so by focusing on hugging on the walls, I was able to solve these a lot faster. But then I ran into problems like this, where it's like, there's so many ways you could do it, but they're also so wrong, all of them, except for... like maybe one or two possibilities. Here, I just got stuck for the longest freaking time because there's really only one way to solve it. And you have to go up and down and up and down and up and down and hug the walls. And I was forgetting to do that for some reason. And then finally it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Also, that yellow and blue combination kind of reminds me of the Human Rights logo or IKEA. Look at all these flowers that have been just knocked over. What a mess. So you come into this space and you're like, finally I get to be in here and I get to look at this and I get to try to solve it. And what's surprising, as you'll find out in the next video, is that it's actually quite subversive and not at all what you think. So be sure to look forward to that next time.